Yeah, we just need textile renderings. Awesome, excellent. So my name is Sue Anderblock, Councilwoman from Ward 3. I am calling to order the North Main Street Task Force. Can we please call the roll?
Chair Anderson.
Here.
Vice Chair Bahigian.
Here.
Lieutenant Brown.
Here.
Martha Lopes is absent. Rachel Peterson is absent. Peter Camara is absent. Thomas Badway is absent. Miss Engel. Here. Miss Lance. Here. Nee Urso.
Here.
Sean Raymond is absent. Rosie Jaswell. Here. We have 7 present and 5 absent. We have a quorum.
Awesome, thank you. And Peter is technically absent for the record, but is on Zoom. So thank you, Peter, for being here with us. And as always, we're joined by our amazing clerks. So thank you guys for being here. And our friend from the solicitor's office, Leo Felix, thank you for being here. Awesome. So our first, oh, actually, can we do the thing where we go around and say our name out loud, just because there are people who sometimes watch the room and they can't really see our name tags as well. So if you could just say your name and then who you represent or what you represent. So I'll go first. Sue Anderblock, Councilwoman Ward 3, chairperson of the task force. Lieutenant Brown.
Bill Ralph, office, please.
Sarah Engel with Ripta.
Nee Urso, Providence Traffic Engineering.
Jess Lance, Director of Special Projects for the Planning Department.
Leonela Felix, Law Department.
Kyle Delgado, City Council.
Marissa Capaldi, City Clerk's Office.
Claire Gerard, City Clerk Department.
And Rosie Jaswell, the Green and Complete Streets Advisory Council representative.
Jamie Gilligan with the Providence Streets Coalition, also vice chair of the task force.
Yay, okay. Do I need a motion to take 2 out of order?
We should.
Okay, because our friend for number 1 is not yet arrived, I would like a motion to take number 2 out of order and start there. Have that motion, please. Motion made, seconded, all in favor? Excellent, any opposed? Okay, cool. Well, I'm really excited because number 2 is a discussion with the Providence News Report, and we have Elizabeth Bettis, reporting administrator here with us today, who is fantastic. And so, yeah, we was like, welcome, thank you so much for being here. Yay, so if you want to join us at the table, Elizabeth and I and Pat talked a bit about North Main and some of the things we're seeing at the court, and then also some things that Elizabeth has seen with her very own eyes because she spends time on North Main. And she was just gonna share a little bit and then be open to questions. She's watched some of our meetings and seen some of the questions we have. So I'll stop talking, and Elizabeth is amazing, and if Chief Judge Lombardi is watching, I just want him to know she's a gem and we appreciate her so much.
I appreciate that. So my name's Elizabeth, I'm the court administrator, and I also unofficially kind of spearhead our cameras for the city for red light and speed as well. So North Main, I know that we have some. I get to review that footage pretty often, either in court or through the approver staff when they want me to see something that's going on. And I wanted to speak today about things that I've observed, but also about how that system kind of works, because it has very beneficial points to it, but then also some of the technology is just not where it should be. So we have the North Main Street cameras. We have 2 of them that I can think of offhand right now. So one is the one that's in front of McDonald's in that shopping plaza that's between a very large housing development and the things that they need in life, the essentials. So it's a grocery store, it's a pet store, it's a coffee shop, it's cheap food. And there's not a lot of infrastructure there to safely cross, especially at night. So that's where we've seen several pedestrian strikes. The red light cameras are only as good as the deterrence around them to support them. So something that I observed, as well as the Providence Police Department and the approver staff, who's also the auditor staff. They audit the cameras to make sure that they're working and that they're beneficial to the areas that they're servicing. So that camera in particular only works if it's a red light. So when you have a situation like all of those red lights being green without a trigger, they're not going to do anything. So someone can be speeding through there. So from South Water Street, what we observed is in the evening time, if there's not cross traffic, all of those lights are green. It's not going to trigger the camera to do anything because there's not a red light to run. So it's not doing anything that's beneficial, and that's something that I believe somebody's reached out to the state about. And then now we're gonna partner in the fact that the crosswalks that are there don't talk to those lights. So those crosswalks will tell someone to cross when all of those lights are green. That's not gonna be beneficial to those pedestrians in trying to make a safe cross. So I have a piece of safety equipment that's telling me, go ahead, walk across. And then the individual that's behind the wheel has had 3 or 4 red lights to pick up speed. And there's speed bumps there, but if the car is of a certain size, you just go right over it. It's not something that's going to save anybody who's trying to get to Starbucks, trying to get to the grocery store. So as much as the red lights are beneficial, they have to have the infrastructure surrounding them to be productive and to serve their purpose. So what is happening in that area and adding those walkways, adding that well-lit area is going to be so beneficial in conjunction with the traffic engineering points that we have to make that everything kind of a cohesive map of this is pedestrian safety, we're at the forefront of it, we're working on it. Because it is that infrastructure, that physical infrastructure that we need, it is the technology that we need to work with. And it is gonna be also the community, making sure that they're giving that feedback like as a pedestrian. So I really love that we have this and have that feedback because I watch these meetings from my couch a lot. And some of that feedback that I'm hearing is exactly what I'm observing. And I do see those individuals. I spend a lot of time on North Main. My son's doctors and supports are actually at the Providence Center. So we're there a lot. We're probably there once every other week, once every week, and all times of the day. I can tell you that when it's raining out, that middle median is mud. Who wants to, as a pedestrian, walk across the street through mud and then you're running because you're trying to get through it as quickly as you can? So you're not necessarily paying attention to the driver who's also not paying attention. You're not paying attention to that driver that's had those 3 or 4 red lights to pick up speed and go over those medians. There's a math equation there, and I really love that we're taking that equation and adding more into it, giving further supports in that safety infrastructure. And the cameras are going to be a component of it, but it's not a solution. The red light cameras, for example, they only travel with the car if it's above 14 miles an hour. That's the threshold in which the camera can record a violation. So if you have a heavy congestion area and you're worried about those cars taking that right on red, the infrastructure for the camera and the technology is just not there to be effective, especially in high congestion, because those cameras at that point are not catching anything. They're not recording. They're not working towards anything. They're not following any cars, even if they do make that no turn on red. It's not going to be something that's helpful. Technology has not caught up with what we need for accuracy, and that 14-mile-per-hour threshold is the calibration needed to effectively get those violations from that right-hand turn. And heavy congestion just doesn't have that. Or if someone stops and then goes, they're no longer being recorded by that camera. It's just not happening. And the speed cameras also have limitations, but there are certain sites that we've identified, and we actually have to go through the law department before, because the law does say any school, and it doesn't designate the definition of what a school is. So when we reached out to the state, they said it could be a preschool, it can be a daycare facility that offers state pre-K, it can be an elementary school, it can be a high school, it can be private, it can be public. Some questions that I had was, does the Providence Center count as one because they have a daycare component to it and they do have childcare? The police department identified another school that is a quarter mile up from that same intersection that could be a red light camera area. It could be a speed camera area, excuse me. We're trying to work with the technology that we have and the vendors that we have, but there are those limitations where we want it to be effective, but we also don't want it to be just a stopper. We want it to actually contribute to a solution for the problem. And so we are working on that. It is something that I know Port Hawkins is working on, and those expansions into cameras, because some of our technology, as Nate knows, is 20 years old, and some of those cameras are the original cameras from the contract. So there could be more out there. We're out for RFP for it right now, and I'm excited to see who's bidding on it, because the technology is out there for red light speed camera combos. We had a vendor, that came down who told us, you know, some states have the same situation that you have, where they want a red light and a speed camera. And they have speed and red light camera combos now where it serves two masters, and site-wise, that's amazing because they're above the ground. So they're up there where the other cameras for red light are now, instead of on the ground like the mini
Oh,
R2D2s.
yes. Yeah.
Cause the mini R2D2s are only as good as the car that's not parked in front of them. The
Yeah.
vehicle that's not obstructing the laser, that's what tracks the vehicle. So as much as we see tons of violations, issuance is low on a lot of them because of the tech, because of those environmental factors. So we have this theory that, oh, you know what, it's gonna solve the problem. It's not, the practicality of it just isn't there. We have this theorization that it's going to work and, you know, we'll put it there and people will see that they're getting $85, $50 fines and they're gonna get a court appearance and the judge is going to, you know, tell them what's up. And it's just not always happening just because of that vendor limitation. So I do want to give like that realistic expectation that we would love to camera the entire street, but the limitations of those environmental factors are a real contributor as to what we can actually productively produce from those violations. And I do want to add this as well. I spoke to the chief judge earlier this week. My judges are wonderful and members of this community because let me tell you, when we have those individuals who come in and they have 5, 6, 7, 10, 15, 4 pages of red light camera violations, speed cameras, we had someone at $13,000 the other day.
Oh, my God.
Yes, whole different situation. The judge lets them know the reason that the school zone is 20 miles an hour is because 25 is the rate of speed in which you're most likely to kill someone with your vehicle. The police department let us know that, the individuals who are the approvers let us know that. So 20 is the speed in which you might not kill them. So you're in a school, slow down, and the judges really drive that point home when the individuals come into court, and they let them know this is put there because a teacher died, like the teacher was hit, you know, we have multiple pedestrian strikes in the city. We have children who have after-school sports. That's why the cameras go so late. That's an argument that we hear a lot. Oh, the kids get out of school by 3 o'clock. Why does the camera go till 7? Well, what time is your son's basketball? What time is your kid's track? What time do you have tutoring till? What time do you have drama club till? What time do you have after school events? So there's always some reason and justification for it. So the judges are completely on board with that community engagement, as well as being proactive and educating members of the community when they do come to the court.
That's great. I have a few questions, but I imagine other people do, so I can hold mine if other folks have questions for Elizabeth.
Can you just clarify, what you meant by the school siting? Like, is it that you can't have cameras there, or you can only have cameras there? What was the?
Yeah, so the state laws says that you can have a speed camera within a quarter mile of what's considered a school zone. And the definition of a school is very loosely interpreted on a state level. It doesn't say it has to be a publicly funded K through 12 institution. It doesn't say that it includes private schools, it just says school. So pre-K, state pre-K, private pre-K, whatever that may be. Daycares, they were a little more loose about because it doesn't say school.
Yeah.
But that state pre-K is considered a school. So that kind of opens the door a little bit, because I think previously, what I was told anyway was that they were working off of the definition of K through 12 school, and that was the institution and how the placement was.
And that's the only place you can have them?
Yes, for speed cameras. Red light running is just whatever a combination of the traffic engineering division and the police department recommends.
Elizabeth, you mentioned that there's no, I guess, connection or dialogue between these traffic lights and the pedestrians, correct? Do we know who owns, well, I think right out owns the traffic light.
Yeah.
Who owns the
That's
pedestrian?
not the signal, I think. I know at least the one you were just talking about. I just talked with Sean about that signal, and they own the pedestrian.
Yeah, they,
wanted that.
I mean, they're, right out of all the signals on South Main Street, North Main Street. At some point, be on the street, you know, south of Doyle. But,
Oh, pedestrian.
yeah,
I think
it wouldn't be. What's that?
Is that the signal itself and the pedestrian signals, so the traffic light and the pedestrian signals are covered under that.
They're all-
Oh, yes,
So-
yeah, it's one signal. The pedestrian signal at that intersection, yeah.
That's-
Not really sure what it's meant by it, they don't talk to each other, but
Yeah,
yeah. well, it was-
The Starbucks sign with that pedestrian crosswalk doesn't. I double checked with the state with RIDOT, was it Sean?
Yeah, Sean.
Sean, and he confirmed it doesn't speak to the light, so those
Oh.
lights leading up to
Oh,
it.
are you talking about the mid-block crosswalk between Olney and? Is that we talking about or the actual full signal?
You talking about across from Providence Center?
Yes.
Yeah, that's it, well, that's not necessarily a signal, actually, those are probably owned by us, yeah.
Gotcha, yeah, so they
They-
don't talk to the
They
traffic light.
should, oh, no, they're not coordinated, because they're,
They don't have design to.
yeah. They're just, they come out upon pedestrian, push for maturation. It doesn't necessarily, I don't think it would,
Yeah, and
but
that's,
should be,
I don't think the public would understand that type of semantic,
Yeah,
where they're assuming, okay, I'm pressing the button to cross, I have flashing lights that are indicating it's safe.
oh, I
And
see,
then
yeah.
there's
Yeah,
3 or 4.
some-
Yeah, it
stopped.
doesn't,
Yeah.
there's no,
Like I observed it today.
there's no red, white, and green
Yeah.
that makes it stop. It's an
They don't give
unsignalized
any
cross.
sort of like stop.
Exactly.
It's really a flashing warning.
So I think what you're saying is like if they were coordinated, you could have, like the traffic signal that drivers just passed turn red, so they're not
Yeah.
going through green light and then hitting it,
Yeah,
right?
you
Yeah.
could get, so there's not a, that, like, for instance, when, North Main Street South goes at Doyle, maybe. I don't know if there's technology to coordinate a unsignalized crosswalk with that push button with, there might be some wireless solution, yeah.
yeah, I think in combination with Elizabeth's observation about speed bumps over there not being as effective too, like that is a major like hazard there. So I feel like if we can look at any type of technology that kind of connects and communicates those, I think that as a city, we should look into that.
Yeah, that might be some good follow-up with Sean too, because I know we've asked him about some of the ones at crosswalk, like at crosswalks have been coordinated now, like the Rochambeau one is like coordinated, like if you've pressed it, you get a full thing before the light changes to turn. And I think he's been trying to like move down the line, but I don't know that all of them have. been
Yeah,
like
You
that.
need exclusive pedestrian. phase.
Yeah,
I think that, but also like I don't. There should be some follow-up, Sean, I think, about all of them, because I think he was saying, but correct me if I'm wrong, like some of the like. The older signals, some of the technology in there is just really old, because they haven't upgraded, so it's like things that you can do now with signals, you can't necessarily do. At some of the pedestrian signals we have, because it's just old.
But I think some of what Sean was talking about doing was breaking some of the coordination between the lights, right? So like from Doyle to Branch and then Barbara Leonard in between, those all go green at the same time, or I think on like a 2-minute cycle. So it creates that string of green lights where you can go through. And there's another series north of Rochambeau, I think 3 lights are coordinated, he was talking about it, I
It's
think
like version
first.
the third and.
Well, Rochambeau was no longer part of that, but then like third up to Smithfield, I think something.
Yeah, there's one in between.
Those, I believe, are also coordinated, right? So I think he was talking about putting in exclusive pedestrian phases up there.
Okay.
Because that would help with that, the string of green lights that you're talking about.
The chief judge and I actually drove it ourselves just to see what it was. I drive a Honda Civic and I can go over those speed bumps like there's nothing there. My tires fit right through it and that's it. Chief judge is in an SUV, so we drove it, and when you get from the fire station
Yeah,
and you drive straight down, I mean, this was 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
yeah, there's nothing.
There's nothing. We had green lights until we got to Providence Bagel.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, we could have gunned it and there wouldn't have been anything to stop us, you know, there's no deterrent there because you're giving people a drive strip, basically. You know, I can go straight through those speed bumps. There's not a light that's gonna stop me. There's no infrastructure to stop me.
Yeah.
And speed is a huge
Yeah,
factor.
that's pretty sad.
Those pedestrian strikes are non-strikes. They're
Yeah.
not to traffic at all, but those people are in very bad states after those strikes, and it's very sad.
So, yeah, I think the speed bumps, they're not necessarily gonna stop people at the crosswalk. I mean, it does slow people down. I would say they don't have, they have some benefit. To, you know, increasing the amount of people that would yield to somebody at a crosswalk.
But if you
But-
travel that and you travel it daily, you know that just a little to the left, you don't even feel them. You just,
Yeah,
you're tired
yeah.
of it right
I
through.
feel optional. Like, it's not like people see that and they mandatorily have to, I've watched too many people who are conscious of it and choose to slow down, do, but some people who definitely want to float over.
Yeah,
and could.
it may not be 100%.
But that's part of, I think, the hazard for pedestrian, right? Because you don't know which car is gonna slow down to 5 miles an hour and which one's gonna go through at like 35, and you
Yeah.
kind of have to look and try to judge. So the kind of inconsistency can give you a false sense of security, right? If you saw the last two cars slow down and the next one speeds through.
Yeah.
One thing I've observed is the temporary ones that you put out to pilot things, like definitely do slow
Those are
down.
more
cars.
aggressive.
They are, yeah, they are more
They're a lot more
faceted
aggressive.
and angular. and
There-
Higher percentage of cars.
yeah.
For those, and people
Pretty much.
cars will swerve out of the lane to kind of rattle it.
Yeah,
I know there are challenges with those, but in terms of like.
they're the same height as the asphalt.
But the shape of, you know, the asphalt ones end up being kind of rounded, so it's easier to kind of bump over them, whereas when you hit like suddenly you're hitting a plane at a different angle on the plastic.
They're
wrap.
abrasive.
They're,
Yeah,
the length of them are shorter. With
Yeah,
the
but
speed.
they
are those feasible as a year-round thing, or are they really not compatible with plowing?
I mean, we haven't had good luck with. Even though there's a sign that says speed bump with all plow trucks now, but yeah, you so. And the are very labor intensive to take out and put down, so, but I mean, we can adjust the design of the asphalt. I mean, you know. Those are 6 feet long, the temporary ones versus 20 feet long, just because I think. Looking at standards, that's kind of a standard that was recommended for them, but perhaps we can look at a shorter one. I think those speed lumps kind of come up to a point, the rubber speed lumps.
Yeah,
You don't have much of a plateau, but. Yeah,
I wonder if you could like mill the surface down to like a flat kind of ramped edge, because I think I can imagine with asphalt, when you pack it down, it just ends up round, but I wonder if there are ways to like go back and kind of reshape them to make them more aggressive.
I think over time, it just compress, probably the best
Yeah.
solution would be concrete.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
something that's not-
Roger Williams Park has
yeah.
great speed bumps.
Oh, really?
Yes, they are, talking about abrasive, those speed bumps will take you out. If
Oh,
you-
yeah, they totally will. I didn't
Yes,
know
if
that.
you are going above 20 miles an hour, you are gonna go sailing and it is going to be very damaging to your suspension.
Yeah.
Those speed bumps are great. And
Yeah.
the other thing is,
So-
they can snowplow in front of the state house and that speed bump is like 4 feet tall.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So-
so raised crosswalk, that one's.
yeah, rated crosswalk is something to think about, especially like that.
yeah. I mean, just also realize that in some cases, I know on South Main Street, we were putting that. People were bottoming out, and they were damaging the vehicles too, so. That's why we didn't want to go into a higher floor, just so, you know, that's something to consider too.
Yeah, 'cause I haven't heard of anyone dying in front of the state house and they put that giant speed bump in.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a
Because
matter,
somebody
it's
got hit.
also a matter of how long that slope is coming up, that's got a lot to do.
The one in front of the State House was installed a long time ago though, because there was a strike there.
Yeah.
I think it was,
I think
it
they
was the
did it,
state
it
law.
was too aggressive, and they
That got
did
hit.
it many years ago.
And we've had, what, 3 or 4?
We've had 4 in the last, at least since I've been.
Yeah, to Elizabeth's point though, I mean, since then, it's been nothing.
Yeah.
Like,
Since we started this, there was one.
Oh, he meant since the state house, right?
Yeah, state house.
Since the state house one got put in.
In response to that, strike, it's
Yeah.
been
And
pretty
it's,
bad.
it's a huge traffic artery as well. It's a well-traveled area. It's a main road. So there's not a difference really in the obstruction and traffic in that area. Is it gonna tip people off a little bit? Yeah, but maybe people won't die.
Yeah, I'd rather people be a little ticked off than,
Right, and if you're going too fast, that's a personal problem.
yeah, slow down.
If you are damaging your vehicle because you're going too quickly over a piece of safety infrastructure, the problem isn't the safety infrastructure, it's you.
Yeah.
Change your habits.
Yeah.
Agreed, I'll drive a Prius that has like 3.5, 4 inch front, or I have never sprayed on the speed
But
hump.
we just follow the state's, pending proposal for us. Like they're looking at multiple different,
Yeah, this one,
things.
yeah, this part, the stretch we're talking about by the Providence Center is owned by the city. So we could just do some of this, if, like, working with Nate, for the rest of it,
So
Sean is still working through his recommendations.
it's something to discuss, I have to tell you that, it was a big issue with people scraping. And it wasn't, they were slowing down enough to do scraping, it was mostly electric cars and. That's just our observation, and it was kind of a big issue, so, but it's something that we can revisit. In terms of A better design, but
Do you remember when the ones went up on Rochambeau when they were really tall? There was like one guy who just abandoned his car on it. We were like walking the dog, and this is gonna abandon the
Yeah,
car.
we
We were
did.
like, are they coming back? Like,
we did those two, those are almost the same.
yeah.
I think it's just generally important to keep in mind, though, that some of these things that we're talking about, the speed humps, the speed cameras, those are all really in response to kind of a poorly designed infrastructure,
right.
as you mentioned, so like,
Yeah.
you know, if you change kind of the overall, cross-section and the feel of the drive, or the feel of the walk, that can just like subconsciously make everybody kind of slow down, and it's kind of self-enforcing that way, and then you don't have to kind of sprinkle in all of these additional kind of things to kind of force people
Yeah, so,
to behave the correct way, so yeah, I think this is all great for kind of in the meantime,
meantime,
but
yeah.
with an eye towards if we design it right, we won't necessarily need all these extra things.
yeah, no, I really appreciate you bringing that up, Rosie, because I think that's like what we've been talking about too, like doing the things we can do now while we're still planning for that longer term. Like design engineer rigor situation, so that's a really good thing to bring up, but like in the meantime. Would not want anyone to die, so.
The other takeaway from this, Nate, if we can assess that area of the speed bumps for something that might be more effective, I think that would be
Yeah.
highly beneficial.
While we have you, Elizabeth, I still have a few more questions. One is, so for the speed cameras by schools, since there might be some areas, and we've talked about this at a prior meeting, since there might be some areas on North Main that could be in that category, what is the process moving forward? It sounds like the solicitor's office would get involved, but also since the RP is out right now for the cameras, is that, what does that look like from a process perspective, so we can follow up?
Sure, so,
Kyle, like, so the two of us can.
So Nate and I actually discussed this. We have a bi-weekly meeting with the current vendor. So with that RFP being out there, whether it's the current vendor or a new vendor, we have new camera infrastructure coming. And that comes with also site evaluations. So when we spoke with Courtney, that site evaluation is going to include speed sleds from the traffic division where they're monitoring speeds for like a impromptu study. Nate's office with their recommendations from traffic studies, police data that's coming from accidents reports, strikes, ticket issuance, anything that we can track statistically. And then recommendations from 311. It's a conglomerate of different opinions and different value that people are looking for that's gonna be in effect. It's not gonna be a 3-person thing where, you know, we decide, okay, it's that one. It's going to have purpose behind it and intention behind it where, you know, I'm not seeing things like I am now where I have cameras that produce 13 tickets a month because it was a great camera site in 2013 and it's not in 2025. So that site evaluation is coming up, whether we keep the individual company that we have now or we get new cameras, that infrastructure and those sites will change. So that is coming and I'll keep you abreast of this.
Okay, maybe we can move back in this group once we know what that, okay, that's awesome. And then, okay, one other. Nope, you already answered the rest of mine. Do you have a
I have
question?
one,
Yeah.
more of a comment, on that sort of endless string of green lights, Sean, our representative, had, agreed back, I think sometime last winter to pursuing the rest on red
Yeah.
signal timing, so late at night, the lights would default to red until somebody came along, or at least some of the lights. Yeah, just if we can update on where
Yeah.
that stands, that would be helpful.
That's not happening. And if you need the footage for it, we have red light camera footage where it records the incident, so it'll show the rest of the lights in that camera view. And that's something that we see, that area has low issuance because the cross traffic is what sets it to that red light. So if there's nothing coming when it's late at night or early morning, there's not gonna be a red light ticket issue because it's just gonna stay green.
Yeah. And the real issue on North Main, well, one of the issues on North Main really is the speeding, and so folks are just like picking up that speed, and we can't have speed cams. In the meantime, before we fix the road in a more complete way, like, what is that? Yeah. Yeah, how do we get more eyes there, because it's the bumpers to not have. a lot of tickets coming through your office. Given what we know about what's happening on that street.
Yeah, and it's the same thing, like Allen's Ave is also what we consider to be the drag strip. You know, we have cameras there, but the lights are always green.
Yeah,
Because they're triggered by cross traffic, and if there's not cross traffic or there's not a train coming, you're gonna get a green light the entire time.
yeah.
There's no school, so we can't put a speed camera there, but we have a red light camera going both ways, and
But if there's no red lights.
one camera I get nothing from, and then the other camera I get maybe 7, 10, 15 a month, if that.
Yeah.
And it's because of that environmental, infrastructure or lack thereof around it, where those lights are always gonna be green for traffic continuity purposes, which is ridiculous, but that's the reasoning that I'm given.
I'm not thinking, is that part of like RIPTA's operation, Sarah? Like, does RIPTA need the regular green? And I wonder if that, if so, that's part of like what we think about for the longer design is like, RIPTA has its, I don't know, RIPTA has its own rules or something. Oh, Zach.
So yeah, I mean, we really appreciate the green when a bus is coming, but that's every 10 minutes, not.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, because you can also set maximum green times into the signal so that it's not just sitting there waiting for somebody to like trigger it on the side street. But yeah, that goes back to coordination.
Yeah.
All that. good stuff.
Okay. Cool. Oh, please, get in there and say your name for the record, please.
Dylan, Providence Streets Coalition, what percentage of tickets, or what percentage of like captured speed violations or red light violations do you think do not advance to actual violations? And then what percent are like dropped by the judge?
So it's, what actually comes to court is about 79% of the tickets issued. We have a very high pay by mail percentage. It's somewhere around 40%. But here's another struggle for the cameras. The state of Rhode Island and the Department of Motor Vehicles does not allow vendor third-party access for citations. So another struggle that we have is accurate information on the violator. So, for example, our vendor right now, Rhode Island has, and Lieutenant, you might know more than me, over 70 plate types. And they range from radio operator to suburban, commercial, passenger combination,
Commercial combinations of common era.
yeah, and it happens constantly. So I have this vendor who's out of Canada using a vendor to get my driver information for these violators, and they're using something called Endless, which scours the internet and law enforcement databases to get information. And sometimes it's 5 years out of date, sometimes it's 5 months out of date, sometimes it brings back nothing. Sometimes it brings back the wrong plate type, like when it looks up RIPTA, sometimes it tells me it's a Porsche. And and it's very obviously.
Sometimes people have those things on the.
Yeah.
Which makes it difficult, so they might say, oh, we thought it was a commercial vehicle, it's really a combination and.
So in that sense, those are legal, right? We have those, they are.
Since you're considering legislation to try to regulate some of those license plate companies, like how frequently are you seeing those?
It's a huge problem. Not only that, but it's the covers themselves and then tinted plates. And then stickers, so placement of people's registration stickers on the actual plate. I know people think it's cute to show like, oh, you know, I've had this plate for 20 years or something like that. But it also obstructs the plate type a lot of the time. So mix in that vendor not having direct DMV access, our failure to adhere rate is actually extremely high because individuals aren't receiving those citations due to that inefficiency and the DMV refusing to share access with third-party vendors. It's a huge problem.
So there's a two-step process though, right? So the vendors first review the violations and, start with them. So the vendors review them and then they come to our office. Because the vendor by law can't issue a violation. So we have 2 or 3 officers in the traffic office that go back through and review them. And a lot of times they have access to NCIC, they can run it. And if the plate vehicle type doesn't match what the violation was, then we have to give it a ticket. Like if we write the ticket or issue a ticket for the company, approves the ticket to a red Honda. And later on you find out it's really, that car really is, the plate is registered to like a blue lease on.
We don't do that.
Yeah.
It's 2,800 tickets a week that are issued. They don't do that. They're clicking through to see if there's a violation and that's it. It's actually a 5-step process. So the approval process starts at the camera itself. There's an individual who is on site that works for the company that takes the data and extracts it. Either every day or every other day, depending on the area and the traffic volume, because it's an individual in a vehicle that's stopping on the side of the road, pulling out a computer.
Oh, wow.
Pulling out a laptop, hooking it up to the speed camera and pulling the data manually. And then- No.
Oh, wow, so they're like plugging it in.
Yeah, 'cause
like.
It's not like a bump road?
Yes, yes, so there's an individual on the side of the road that's doing this for all the speed cameras.
Oh, my God.
So he pulls it, and that's the first step of it. Then he goes through it to make sure that the data isn't corrupt, because it does happen where there's entire days that we lose because it rained too hard and it got wet. Yeah, because a computer malfunctioned, it didn't get an update that it was supposed to get, because they are connected to the internet, but not enough to extract, 600 violations in a week or something. So he gets it, he reviews it to make sure the files aren't corrupt, then it goes through the first approval process. And that is to determine that you can't see anything else in the photo. So speed cameras, we take still images and we put data analytics on the side, how fast they were going, where we started tracking them, how long we tracked them, and then the make and model of the vehicle is found by AI. At that point, an individual goes in and obstructs everything around the vehicle. So if you're walking past and someone gets a violation, we're not gonna see you. There's somebody that's gonna block it out. And they're gonna make sure at that point that they can see a plate and that they can see a make and model, and they're gonna put it in. Then it goes to the next step of the vendor. The vendor then has individuals who check the file again, make sure that there's a plate, make sure that the make and model match, and then they put it through the system. The next night after it's trialed the internet through NLens or NexusLexis, and it's filled in, then the next step in the approval process. Okay, we're gonna make sure that RIPTA bus doesn't say that it's a Porsche. And stuff falls through the cracks. Our vendor isn't the best lately with that approval process, I'll be honest. And so they get to that step, and then it gets to the final process on the vendor side. Then the vendor, we have an account exec, he goes through, checks all the stats, puts it through, and then our approvers get it. And our approvers can disapprove for dark environment, plate obstructions, improper plates, improper plate type, the make and model's incorrect, because everything on that ticket has to match. So if I accidentally registered my car as a coupe instead of a four-door, it's gonna come back as incorrect, because the picture is gonna show that it's supposed to be a white four-door Honda Civic, but my registration is coming back that it's a coupe. So that coupe gets thrown out and that ticket gets thrown away. So there's a combination of, I think it's 13 different reasons for disapproval. And our disapproval is something like on our end, 20%, and we don't even know what it is on the vendor side.
Or about you.
Yeah, so in the traffic division, we have 3 officers that audit those cameras in the wee hours of the morning in personal vehicles. So one will obstruct the street to make sure that there's no pedestrian conflict or issue that could arise, and he makes it safe. And then the other individuals in their personal vehicle, and they blow the light. And then they document the date and the time, the make and model of the vehicle and the plate, and then we wait for it to come through. And if it doesn't come through, I reach out to the account, like, hey, it's been 10 days, wondering what happened at, North Main and Doyle, why did this come through? And then they'll tell us, oh, on our end, the plate was obstructed, or the flash wasn't working on the camera. So there's a whole bunch of different reasons, and we don't even get to see all of them. So it might flash a million times, and we might get 12 citations because of the combination of those issues. So the technology just isn't what ideally it should be, and it is all of those issues, the DMV, the approval process, the vendor, the frequency in which the vendor does their job.
Yeah,
And a lot of it falls out of the city's hands.
yeah.
Unfortunately, the police are really good about checking when we see, hey, why are we having low issuance in this area? And they go out there and they look, and sometimes I go out there with them. Because I've got a list, when we're in court that says, oh, there's a tree branch in front of this camera. Let's go take a photo, and then we send it to the vendor. Hey, is there a reason why in your calibration you didn't see that there was a tree branch blocking this camera for 3 days?
Yeah.
That's 3 days of issuance that we've lost. So then, we go through this credit process and this back and forth, but that doesn't solve the problem.
Yeah.
So there's a whole bunch of issues that go into it, where ideally you should have 250 violations on a site a day, but those outside factors, come into play, and you end up with 30 or 45.
Do you know, sorry to make you really dig in on this, but do you know, are other states Do other states have different access to the databases than we do? So,
Yes.
okay.
So I reached out to Boston Municipal Court and asked them, who's your vendor? Well, it's our vendor. Could they have direct RMV access in Massachusetts? The RMV doesn't play this game where they're not giving it to third-party vendors the way Rhode Island does. Only the police have direct DMV access for their vendors, and that's it. Public safety, components or projects have no access, and they're not going to give it to us either. Both the vendor and our law department had reached out to them for it, and it was a no-go.
Yeah. Interesting.
It seems like we should identify, by we, I just mean us as a state,
Yeah.
like what needs to change in state law to make this work better. And think about making that happen.
There's no statute, it's just a policy.
Oh, so like a state rep could have a statute.
Yeah, because I wish I could hear when you.
Yeah. I wonder if we know anybody who can help with that, yeah.
Wild.
I wonder if we also know anyone who's in it.
It could be somebody that I know.
I like between the two of you, it's like there's people.
But I
This
was
state is so small.
I reached out to Boston, I reached out to the UK actually at one point, to Staffordshire Police
Oh my
Department.
God, you're the best.
Because their safety infrastructure, when it comes to their use of AI and cameras, is phenomenal. Look it up one day. It's the Staffordshire Police Department in the UK. It's amazing. They have entire buses that ride around, in vans that ride around with police officers in them that just, oh, you're speeding, you ran that light, you're stopped in that crosswalk. And this van has like this 360 camera, and it is capturing these events as it's going by. And then they've got speed sleds that do it, they've got the cameras, they've got the red light cameras, they've got their own version of Block the Box. So they had a lot going on, so I called them one day, and I was like, hi, I'm calling from Providence, Rhode Island, and I'm wondering who your vendor is. And so I reached out to the vendor, and so I'm hoping that they did, I won't know until it closes.
Yeah.
But I went looking, I watched YouTube videos for people who were working against the cameras, but it gave me good information.
Yeah.
And, you know, we reached out to several vendors just, you know, to see if the technology was worth it and if it was working. And then we have other, cities and towns here, like Pawtucket uses a different vendor, East Providence uses a different vendor, Charlestown uses a different vendor. And it was the same problems everywhere. We don't get accurate, they're called, Nixies, where it doesn't come back with accurate information. And they're getting the same rate that I am, sometimes between 20 and 30% a week that are issued are actually coming straight back. We don't have the ability to sit there and say, hey, traffic division, I know there's only 3 of you that are in the approval staff. Can you go look up these, you know, 3,000 for the month so that we can give them to the correct people? So we work with what we can, and the traffic division definitely helps with what they can. When we see someone's like a frequent offender, you know, they'll go above and beyond to try to make that connection with the individual and send them a letter and see what we can do to get them in to figure out what's going on. But the reality of it is the volume is just so high for the inaccuracies that it would be a lot for any department.
Thank you. Any other questions? This was awesome. I just learned a ton. I'm also going to include the link to this in my next newsletter, because I feel like people are really gonna want to, like, this was like amazing. I learned a ton just now, about how this all works.
I was very passionate about the cameras.
Yeah, no, this is
So I
very
went out
helpful.
everywhere to try to figure them out because, you know, again, with the volume and the issues that we're facing, I know we're not alone in that, and it's a statewide issue.
Yeah, I also just want to say thank you for doing that extra research, because I get so frustrated, and well, one, because that's amazing, and two, as a member of the finance committee as well, you get so frustrated when you see the same vendors, but again, it's like, well, that's who bid, I guess, you know, they're the lowest one, and you're like, I know there's other people out there, and so you doing that hustle is like really helpful, even if they don't end up bidding, maybe that, you know, drummed up some other interest, it's not just the same guys doing the same job in the way they're doing it, yeah.
She didn't even get into the school bus cameras.
Yeah, oh, that is a whole other.
That's not good.
Yeah, we can do that another time. Your face is like, no.
I cry at night, please.
Yeah, let's not do that one, we'll do it another time. We do have more things on the agenda, but, thank you, this was so helpful with.
Yeah, of
Definitely
course.
follow up.
And my email is very public, it's on the website, it's ebettis@providenceri.gov, so if anyone did have any outstanding questions, or anyone from the public, you know, I'm happy to answer those questions too.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming out.
Thank you, guys.
So, um, I think we still don't have Sherry. Nope. Is she not on Zoom? No, we didn't even. Nope. Oh, wait, under attendee. Nope. Okay, well, you can kind of figure out what one is based on what's in there, so she'll give that update another time, but, let's keep going down. Ripta. Oh, wait, can you read number 3 into the record there? I always just skip
Yeah,
ahead, I get so
it's okay.
excited, very good, my bad. Do better.
RIPTA update presentation by Sarah Engel, RIPTA.
All right, hi. Elizabeth, that really was amazing, and I think you're gonna be hard act to follow, but maybe also because this is an update on the project that we've talked about off and on since the beginning of the task force, the update that I'm gonna give right now is gonna be pretty high level. It's gonna include a lot of like, we're making good progress. You know, we'll have more soon, but since it has been quite a few months, I think, since the last update, we did just want to check in and say that work is happening and it's going really well. But first I want to say that 2025 has been a year for RIPTA. Some people are really familiar with that, who've been supporting us throughout our budget situation that goes all the way back, really almost literally a year. And service adjustments and all sorts of stuff, but we are really focused right now on getting ourselves on a strong and stable footing. Making sure that we are checking all the boxes we need to check as we head into the next budget season, and hopefully we'll emerge really strong and ready to move forward with lots of great projects, but Metro Connector really like high among them. Some of the other things that we're focusing on right now that are not Metro Connector related include really working on, we've rolled out our Wage to Work program again. It used to be called Go Pass years ago. And I was just telling one of my coworkers this afternoon that one of my favorite Wage to Work success stories of the past year happened here when Marion Hospital came to present on the work that they're doing on their campus modernization, and somehow a few months later, we had them sign on to Wage to Work. So thanks to everyone on the task force and that sort of supported that happening. And so that sort of thing has been a big part of the work that we've been doing. But meanwhile, so now on to Metro Connector. This is the first time that here in Rhode Island, we've done this type of project, like a real, like, high capacity transit alternatives analysis. And so everything that we're doing is new to us. And one of the things that has surprised me about it is really like what a heavy lift it is and how long it takes to get to the good needs, to the answers, right? Because it started with, we knew from the transit master plan, generally what the recommended corridors were, you know, north and south of Providence, towards Central Falls, CCRI and the airport. And there are some days when I feel like here we are, like a year and a half into this project, and basically we're still looking at that. But the good news is, we really are still looking at that, like everything that we have investigated so far. First at a very high level, and with increasing drilling down into lots of data. Those corridors that we have assessed are really reliable from a federal funding perspective, from really like every possible angle. Really viable candidates for bus rapid transit or light rail. So pretty broad brush overview. We are in the wrapping up phase of what we call the tier 2 analysis for 4 alternatives. Tier 2 just means the detailed modeling of specific alternatives. 2 of the, and if anyone wants to like really see up close, if you haven't already looked at what the 4 alternatives are, we have story map on the RIPTA website under Metro Connector that will walk you through each of the 4 alternatives. They all They all cover Central Falls to downtown Providence via North Main Street. That was a determination that was made under tier one, that really like North Main Street was the quarter that made the most sense. You know, Hoop Street was considered for a hot minute, but unlike other parts of the study area, North Main really is like kind of a no-brainer. So four alternatives were looked at through the lens of 6 goal areas and something like 27, 34. Many criteria. Looking at things like which alternative is gonna bring the greatest ridership increase, which one is gonna most effectively support transit-oriented development, which one is gonna be best at ensuring that, equitable transportation options, are created. Which ones are going to maximize travel time benefits to riders through dedicated right of way, just the technology, is it bus based, is it rail based? All 4 alternatives, and we are now in the process of really we have preliminary results. We're double checking everything, sort of refining. I want to use that word cautiously because there's another phase of this project where refinement has a particular meaning. What we're doing is we're moving towards a locally preferred alternative. So which of these 4 corridors is going to be the preferred corridor? They all show strong ridership gains. Some more than others, light rail more than bus rapid transit generally. That is sort of inherent to that mode. You have larger vehicles, you put more people on. Other sort of preference things sort of factor into that. So so what we'll do in a little while, as in probably early in the new year, is bring fairly detailed results of that analysis, and we'll move into a sort of a public assessment phase where, but I think I want to just open it up today if anyone wants to just throw something on the table. The things that we're going to be asking for are, which mode is the preferred mode, and that's a really big question. There are big differences in cost between a bus rapid transit alternative and a light rail transit alternative. I should note that, and this is documented in the story map on the website, but the light rail alternatives that were modeled, neither goes all the way to the very southern end of the study area. So light rail does not go all the way to the airport, light rail does not go all the way to CCRI in Warwick, but they both stop roughly at Park Avenue, on the west leg. That would be Park and Reservoir. The east leg, it's Park, just above Park, I think, over towards Patuxent Village, because density, the population employment density really drop off below Park, and at the cost per mile of implementing light rail, even before modeling, it was really pretty obvious that those were not gonna pencil in a federal funding sort of way. So the BRT alternatives do go all the way to the southern employment line. So, which mode, which corridor, should there be a phasing where there's a prioritization that just looks at, Central Falls to downtown Providence? Or is there a phasing that says, actually, the most important one to start with is downtown Providence to the airport? That can go in any number of directions, but getting input on that is going to be really important, and that input is going to be informed by all of the detailed modeling results, the travel time, the cost estimates, and actually one that is especially, I think, important in the densest parts of the corridor, downtown Providence, Central Falls, what are the right of way impacts? How is this gonna impact existing bike infrastructure, existing parking infrastructure, and general purpose traffic in some cases? Really to fit the service into the street section, it made sense to find a way to use the general purpose traffic. So people are gonna have opinions about that. And stop locations. So I think this is gonna be an interesting one for North Main, because we've already had some conversation over in the task force about, the existing R-line stops. I've heard it said that we should stop, basically at every building, we should stop more, to increase access. For better or worse, the way BRT and light rail work is stop spacing, is going to be, a further spacing, not a closer spacing. Catchment area, for those modes is larger, but where should those stops be? Is a really important question for this corridor as well as for the rest of the study area. So, those are gonna be really interesting conversations when they happen. And there will be, it's actually starting now, kind of at the elected leadership level, some very light conversations, sort of reminding folks that this project is happening. Our CEO is meeting with mayors to talk about sort of all sorts of things, but for the cities where Metro Connector is happening, Metro Connector is on the agenda. We want to keep the conversation going, so I did want to at least give a little bit of an update today.
Yes.
Hopefully come, February, March, we'll be having some nice like big tent conversations as well as a really sort of pointed survey. To anyone who's interested in looking at it and weighing in on, what their preferences are, should we invest more, do a bigger capital investment and really swing for the fences with a light rail option? Or, is it more important to do something that has a lower upfront capital expense, but maybe can more quickly and efficiently get to, and I mean, in terms of implementation timeframe, get further south or something else altogether. So that's kind of what I have for now. Oh, I did just want to mention that the city is getting ready to launch the North Main Street design engineering project together with RIDA. We're excited about that, and we'll stay in consultation because the idea is that we can sort of be as seamless as possible in moving towards figuring better things for North Main in terms of transit and bicycle and pedestrian safety and access. So I don't know if anyone has any questions. Zach is here and really knows probably 8 things that I didn't say right just now, and can answer a lot of questions that I wouldn't be able to give a good answer to. So anyway, that's what I have.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Does anyone have any questions or anything for Sarah or Zach? So they're okay, the others.
In terms of for the Metro Connector is kind of like the one kind of continuous line, is there a future network that would have kind of east-west and other kind of lines that would connect to this, or would it more be just kind of a freestanding system?
Yeah, I think on the light rail side, that was really not envisioned that there would be a network of like a light rail network with trains intersecting. But regardless, the rest of the transit network remains. Some routes would be, obviously, the R line would be modified accordingly, like this section of the R line would become what we call in the transit master plan now, like N8 or N12, I forget which one it is, but it would become a part of what we refer to as a frequent transit network. And that's the part that is the kind of the most important, is that you would have not just the R line at a 10 to 15 minute headway, but you would have 19 routes at that frequency. So that whether you're hopping off the train and onto a bus or the other way around, or from bus to bus, you know, BRT bus to standard bus, you'd be able to make that connection. And that would be a little bit of a radial, like, people like to sort of lament that Providence is really a hub and spoke system, and we do have crosstown services that we have to introduce, but, it will always be a little bit radial just based on the street network, and there would be, so it would mostly be that, I think that's sort of it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of BRT, I think in this scale of implementation feels really right for that, but just based on other cities that have implemented it really well, I think it's just, you know, you just gotta do it right, and the people will come just as much as they would to LRT.
Well, there's a sort of increasing number of examples around the country for, I mean, not just internationally, which is kind of what it used to be, but it's really, there's a lot of places who can do it here in the US and experience with our team, so that is hopeful.
Any other questions? So that was really helpful, Sarah, and for that. Sure. We had that. Yeah. Okay, number 4, can you number 4, please, read it for the record?
Updates from the Providence Code.
I was going to just state that we are losing our quorum and some of the information
This
in
is
the meeting.
informational only going forward, but also there were no votes. No, there were no votes. Yeah, you're right, yeah, or I would like to guess.
Updates from the Providence Streets Coalition.
And we've got Dylan,
Here.
you've already said the name for the record.
Hi, everyone. I was at the last meeting, which was only back in June, was the last time this body met.
Yeah, sorry.
It has been, lots has happened. And so we were discussing, some of the options for the redesign at, North Main Street benefit, and only that has all since happened, and I wanted to just check in with this group and see, get some feedback and see how they think things are going, but just as a kind of to review, this all started about like 18 months ago, I want to say, with Rosie coming to this meeting with this sketch on the first slide. And at the same time, RIDOT was starting the RSA process, and over that time, the RSA kind of showed that temporary redesigns like this were more than appropriate on North Main Street. And so come around June, when we last met, the striping did go in, and yeah, everything just stands. And it was really interesting because there was this period after the striping was in, and until when the flex post went in, and then when the planners went in, there was just proof that that we actually need vertical separation in temporary curb extensions like this, because cars were going through it all. I would just stand out there, I go through it on my way home from work, and it's just like kind of proof of concept, because when the flex post went in, and the planners went in subsequently after that, obviously that came to an end.
Dylan, if I can put in for a sec, I was getting a bunch of emails during that time too, people being like, thanks for the paint, but also like, you know, so it's like, people noticed it, they were like, well, glad something's happening, but like,
This was
Not enough?
This was second nature to so many drivers.
Yeah.
And they were like, it doesn't matter, this is part of my commute, you know.
Yeah. it was interesting proof that like, you really do need that,
Yeah.
because people saw it and they were like, cool, thanks, but like,
Yeah.
and then I was like, but wait, there's more.
Yeah, well, this is,
Here's that.
this is the bottom, this is an essential part of our bike network, and a lot of people aren't gonna transition onto North Main Street and want to get onto benefit, so there's this obvious kind of use case there. And then around the same time, thank you, Nate, for erecting the No Town Red sign at that intersection. Flex Post went in, and then immediately after, or not immediately, a couple days after the Flex Posts were complete, we put in these 5 self-watering planters that I had said were the preferred, you know, things I'd seen in Burlington, Vermont. And there was a couple of days when it was just the Flex Post and it wasn't the planters. And we were noticing, and part of it I think was because they were a little bit poorly installed, but the other part was cars were kind of still getting close to the curb extensions. They weren't like kind of alerted to the fact that this was, and so we were noticing that the flex posts were getting knocked down. And then as soon as the planters went in, that all stopped opening. Because I think drivers think they're concrete. That was the hope. I thought they were concrete when I first saw them. So, you know, it's been a really interesting evolution to see and to be a part of. And thank you, Councilor Dubois, for kind of helping us through this process and helping champion this redesign. We really want to make sure that we're approaching this thoughtfully and that it's a success because we want to do this elsewhere. So, you know, I guess that kind of, you know, brings me to the discussion, and I know that I don't want to draw this out too long, but, you know, do you have any feedback on how things are going, especially me, and where else on our Main Street would you like to see, some kind of temporary verticals like this?
Sarah?
I have enjoyed this cemetery, like this project so much, from the first conversations that we had around it, just about what a mess this intersection is to, you know, what potential solutions were and, Nate, I just remember you sharing your presentation and sort of sharing, you know, what the options were and the discussion of the planters, and it sort of at some point during that time, I was riding my bike through there every now and then, sort of in the pre sort of circumstance, and like at every stage, and I drive my car through there somewhat, right, not daily, but like regularly enough that each of those phases where there was paint, where there was flex posts, but not planters, and then when the planters went in, and it was incredible the difference that it was. I mean, it's really pretty neat, like, and it took a lot, but, you know, I don't know, maybe it wasn't a lot relative to other things, right?
It was a
So
lot
I
of
don't-
waiting, it was a lot of waiting,
Yeah.
and getting used to that. That many of you, are used
It's just a light speed compared to the work that I do.
Well,
so.
yeah, we never talked about that. Yeah, and then it kind of like, it was like all of a sudden, like we had to like suddenly
When
like.
it happened.
Yeah, the planners were on board for like 6 weeks and the flex posts weren't in anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered, and then suddenly the planners showed up. I'm like, oh, crap. We have to fix this up. But,
No, it's
yeah,
amazing.
thank you, Sarah.
Yeah,
I'll also quickly share, oh, go ahead, Nate.
I mean, in terms of, it was a long wait. You just hit our, you know, the team that does signs, that does this, we just really backlogged. So
Yeah.
it may be, I mean, we're getting caught up now, so it may be a lot better in the future in terms of implementing these in some other situations. So,
And is there a stop sign in that over there too?
yes,
Yes.
yeah, temporary ones.
The most recent.
Yeah,
one or two.
the windy day, then we may want to think about something that can actually build those to the ground.
Yeah, or you could probably put like sandbags on them or something, just so they don't.
Yeah, or try to see if there's some type of design that can bolt it into the paving. I noticed this week when we had that windy day, one of them got blown over, so.
Yeah, I mean, people were stopping there before this. Signs went up.
Is there,
They were doing the right thing.
you can't strike that as a crosswalk, can you, because it's not really accessible.
Yeah,
There'd be extra things you'd have.
yeah, I think,
You need like detectable.
Wheelchair ramps and-
Path.
yeah.
Okay,
I thought that was always gonna be part of the, you know, a permanent curb design to be something that's done there.
Yeah,
A little more money, but yeah.
is that something that the
so,
CDBG could?
so two quick updates. Well, one is a step back. It's just like I know it felt like a long time, but I know that Nate and Craig Hoffman, chief engineer, they really rushed like the permitting and all that kind of stuff too. Not rushed, but took the appropriate amount of time, but not much time. And so really appreciate all the work of like the DPW team and then also the Streets Coalition team for like getting them installed. And it was such a team effort. It was so nice to see so many members of the community come out. And then like one of the homeowners from that house, like right on the corner came out, and was like, look at what you guys are doing. And it was just like a really lovely thing. And I can share too that, so I represent parts of Benefit Street. And I've heard from a lot of folks on Benefit Street on that. I only represent the western side of Benefit Street, which is so funny, but anyway, but I talked to people on both sides, and I've been to a few events now, and folks have been well, how did I get this? Like, oh my God. And so like people have had only positive feedback and you never know when something changes, you know, it's hard and so it's kind of bracing for like, people are gonna feel some way or whatever. And the some way that I've heard, people are not shy about telling them they feel some way either, which I am grateful for because you don't know if people don't tell you. And also, I have not heard anything but positive feedback. Maybe Kyle has because he just did this, but
Yeah.
I mostly heard positive feedback until Kyle shared whatever he heard.
So I do have family that, you know, are in Warburton on Camp Street, and I was driving down Benefit Street with, you know, one of my cousins approaching this area, and my cousin is an aggressive driver, so we're working on that. But in my head, I'm thinking that we're approaching this area, I'm like, I wonder if he knows about this, because
Yeah,
he's used to making that little right
yeah.
swoop there, and we get there, he's like, what is this? And he had to like really stop and think about what he was doing, and it forced him to go and stop at the red light there, and it was just like a real life. You know, we observed that this really did force somebody who is an aggressive driver to stop and reconsider the behaviors in that area, so okay.
Yeah.
They weren't happy about it anymore, but they'll learn.
And I do drive that stretch almost every day, and it's cool to see people, it's like, it used to just blow you on it, you've been there, but, oh, who goes where? And now it's like, you go, I go, you go, I go, and it's like, this is how it's supposed to work, it's like, you can see people coordinating and like whatever, and overall it seems, and then to get to your other question, so, I don't know necessarily that you have immediate funding to go into this, but last night at the finance committee, we did just approve $6 million for sidewalk upgrades for all of Benefit Street, and part of that was Craig talking and sharing that could be coordinated with the other things that happened
That's great.
on Benefit Street. So that still has to get through the full council. But I'm hopeful and that there had been questions about if we were gonna scale back that project. We did not scale it back for the approval, so it's approved at by the finance committee at the full amount that was requested. And so that I will work with them to make sure that that's, assuming it passes the full council, I'll work with Craig to make sure that's part of the plans, because that seems like if we're fixing all the sidewalks on Benefit Street in this like one very enormous project, let's like really do it.
Yeah, I really, really appreciate that this happened and this went through because, you know, it's been my dream for 4 years since I lived on that corner. Or as we lived in that corner. And I do think like the way that it ended up being kind of a phased approach really allowed us to kind of observe and see that like each design intervention plays a part in making that operate the way it does today. So I think the first thing that happened was we changed the signal timing to allow an LPI. And then also making it like an automatic, so it always comes up, so then drivers were kind of used to like always knowing that there's gonna be a clocking phase there. And then, you know, the striping kind of started to make people, you know, think about how to get in, and it wasn't necessarily stopping the right turns from happening, but it was making all of the cars from Benefit not drive through it, like they were all like doing the thing that we wanted them to do. Just because like I feel like they were craving like some order. Like where do I go and where do I turn? And then the flex post went in and, you know, if there was a car, you know, waiting to go straight and there was a car wanting to turn right behind it, it was forced to wait for the red light. But then the no turn on red sign went up. And so even if a car is first in line and they're turning right, now they wait for the red light. So it was just like each thing, like it all works together really well. And it was all kind of done fairly inexpensively. So it really shows the power of some of these kind of rapid implementation projects. And then, you know, lets us test these things before we go out and spend millions of dollars on changing the curbs and making it permanent. So yeah, just really grateful for this whole process for sure.
I vote that we name this the Rosie Jaswell.
Where, I mean, I will not let us sign.
The square's not a lot easier.
Okay.
We can make those enough.
How do we propagate this concept and do more of this?
Do more studies.
Like, knowing that it takes a few months to get. But knowing that it takes a few months to get this rolling, like if we were thinking about doing 2 or 3 more of these up the corridor, like can we maybe sort of work through the phases simultaneously, then like, it's gonna be a little bit before we figure out the funding. It wasn't a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
But like, if that's a hang up, can we kind of start the planning process now and the design and the testing of cones and things?
I think if you get sketches done,
Yeah, I feel like we can
Then,
sketch
like,
stuff,
bam.
we can share it, because further up is gonna be, this also works more quickly than one would think, because it is the city part. But further up is gonna be right out, so if there are sketches, like maybe we can talk to some, not that I'm like, but like, if there are sketches. We can
You know, I mean.
have that with Sean at a future meeting too, of like, what could this look like, what is your approval process?
there
look
may
like?
also be an opportunity in the larger design
Yeah.
process for temporary demonstration projects
Yeah.
in order to show more of this in the right owned.
Yeah.
thing.
Okay.
There is opportunity for that, yeah.
Yeah, like, you know, I mean, even without funding, I think there's opportunities to do this, this wasn't much money.
Right.
Yeah, it would be helpful, Nate, would it be possible to tally up the overtime hours that were put into this specific installation, just so we can know how much it costs on our end, how much it costs on your end, and just to kind of know how much the whole project costs?
Yeah.
Would that be possible?
Yeah, we can tell you, look, whistle.
I mean, they went up there like,
Come on, hundreds of dollars.
really, I mean, yeah, they were up there like, I would say, at least a dozen times separately by my observation.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I mean, they were very deep legs, so it took them a while to do that, wasn't easy work, so, well. And hopefully that'll, you know, make them last no longer, so. But yeah, we can do that, and the, yeah, striping wasn't a lot of them either, so, yeah.
That's great. So maybe we can like chat between meetings too about like prepping for having designs, what that might look like and where in the process that might be. We have been doing that.
I was gonna say, I really enjoyed following the project on social media.
Yeah.
On TikTok in particular, seeing the videos and seeing.
Yeah,
how
that video that you guys posted was great.
It was so nice. Just wanted to be like there. That was good.
And there was one time I like turned it on without realizing I had my volume all the way up, and I forget what song it was, but it was like really for the atmosphere in my house.
A lot of conversation, if you want to find negative feedback, you can look at those, look at the social media posts.
Oh, yeah.
But. that's
Don't read
not-
them.
Don't read the comment, and then you'll get-
Never be time, so social media.
I know there was one on, I think it was the Instagram post where someone was like, I'm just gonna do it 20 years ago, like, okay, like. Cool, like, we did it now, you know?
We got there.
Yeah,
The best kind of angry comment.
that's a good feeling. Any other thoughts or questions for Dylan about the street coalition update?
Is there in the RSA any specific, proposals for quick builds to be done as well in corridor? I'm curious if that's.
I don't think that.
There were some,
It's
there's
like
one,
daylighting. for-
well, there were some specific things like water filled barrier at Red Shamrock.
Oh,
okay.
That was a spot, and it have to be a water barrier, but that was a spot that was exclusively identified.
That's just that what the right turns.
For the regular.
Yeah, because people are still turning right on right there.
Yeah, so, you know, and that stuff was in the sort of 6-month bucket on the RSA, and that table with, you know, the timelines. We're about like a year out from that now, so it might be worth
Yeah,
coordinating with Sean for a review of what's in there that like
yeah,
we could maybe get moving a little more pace.
I'll follow up with them. Cool.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Oh, the other thing is that when they were being installed, Liza said that Liza from Street Coalition said you are encouraged to put stickers on the fenders. She stuck like 10 stickers on there, so I don't know that anyone else.
Really vandalize our.
Not bad. Stickers.
But
Celebrate and
Decorate.
feel community supported, yeah.
One question I had is because the flex posts are up only go away in the winter, are these intended to stay through the winter and including the plants?
Yeah, definitely at the intersection.
Yeah, okay,
I'll-
because like, you don't necessarily need to get a plow in
No,
there,
we're not gonna,
Yeah.
okay.
we just have to be aggressive in terms of, discussing with the snowplow inspectors, just to make sure that they put that they're diligent, that they're there and they don't like them out. So, yeah,
Yeah, 'cause at night, the flex posts are what you see coming up that hill, like the planter's gonna have reflectors, so they can
Yeah.
put posts
Get
on
some
there.
reflective stickers.
I-
Like
For some.
you probably noticed, we put a little break in it because we were out there putting those flex posts, you noticed that it was trash there on the east side. And the
Yeah,
trash truck actually goes
Right.
down there and
my
backs up
neighbor mentioned that.
First Lane. So we put a couple of.
Yeah, yeah, I was gonna
Just,
mention that
you
too.
know, That's how they get up First Lane, they actually back up it.
Okay, knowing it's getting late, can we read item number 5 into the agenda, please?
Additional updates, Counselor Sue R. Angela, Chair, and Kyle Delgado, Director of Project Management.
Awesome. Before we jump into the lighting update, which Kyle has been very ably, I think, share with us, but I, okay. I just have a few quick, very quick things to share in additional updates. One is, our fellow task force member, Rachel Peterson, has moved. So she texted me today, so she's moved and she's been replaced, but she sent her love, and she said, this is you all. And said she left Providence, so she's back in school.
Someone sent her photos.
Yeah, and so we can make her join on Zoom in the future, no, but, so we will be looking for another member of the task force who represents, someone who lives in the ward and gets around by walking or biking. And so, I'll put my thinking cap on as a member of the neighborhood, obviously, but if other folks have ideas, folks who are active participants in things, please let me know, and I can, vet that person. And she apologizes for not letting us know earlier, so that's what she's not here today. Two other quick things. One is, we celebrated Walktober with AARP on North Main Street this year. We went on a Walktober walk with members of AARP and a few members of the task force. Beth was there, Kyle was there, a bunch of folks. And, it was really nice. We just kind of like walked up and down the corridor with AARP. They videoed it. They were pointing out some of the same things we've noticed before too, but the goal of Walktober is really just to get out, get people walking, but also highlight the things in neighborhoods that make it difficult to get around by walking. Or other forms of, non-car transportation, so biking, well, biking is not a word. Walking, biking, scooting, wheelchairs, any sort of active mobility. And so we did a number of Walktober events, but was excited to have one on North Main and kind of tailed back a little bit toward Benefit. We had folks from Benefit Street join us as well, so it was a good walk. It was a little chilly that day, but it was a good walk.
Yeah, the Broadway one was so much chillier.
Oh, yeah, Broadway, that's the one that was cold.
That was the one that's
Okay,
cold.
yeah. None of us.
It was nice.
Yeah, and we also got to meet Jess's dog. which is- Oh, except she didn't like that, but.
It was the best. It was the best. There
It was the best, we all had our best fun. And then my last quick update, so one, that was really fun, and we have a video from that, so I'll share that around too, because, Catherine Taylor from ARP. ARP is a big focus on walkability and, Vision Zero and Keep Streets, which has been really great, to make sure that people of all abilities, can get around, all ages, all abilities, and so, they've been a great partner in a lot of this. And then the other thing I just want to notice, share that since our last meeting, 2 new businesses have opened on North Main Street. So one is further down, but still on North Main. There's a new coffee shop. Oh my God, the name of which I'm forgetting, but it's a really great, spot. It's by, the XO bar. It's across the street from the XO bar. And they also hire folks with developmental disabilities. And so it's part of like a training. Yeah, are you?
I went there Sunday. It was fantastic.
Yay.
And what is it called? Yeah.
It's like Biggies and Buggies or something. It looks really great and their opening was fantastic and people are really, really excited about it. And the other is further up,
Yeah.
really close to the, car wash, I think it's Abbott, this intersection, the in-home care. So there's a new, the building has been there for a long time, it's been vacant, and it's under new ownership, and it's like a large, very beautiful facility on the inside that now is training nurses for in-home care for folks who need hospice care or any sort of like in-home care. So there'll be a couple hundred nurses who do training there and then use that facility kind of on the regular. And they're really excited. They just moved, they were in Cranston in a smaller location, and they were looking for a spot that had RIP to access, that was part of the community, and that was a little bigger. And so we were really excited to welcome them to North Main Street and, had like a really lovely day with them and, when they opened, but they were really excited to relocate to the neighborhood. So cool, like new thing in the medical space on this thing. It's like in-home care. Yeah. And I thought they just expanded and included Cranston, like, no, we are gone from Cranston, we are only in North Lincoln. I was like, that's what I hear now, but they were really great. So just two exciting, like, new things happening on the street. I know economic development has been part of what we talked about, even though a lot of our focus more has been the safety, but.
What building is that?
It was, it had been vacant for a while, it's just south of the, car wash. For a long time, it had a sign on it that said call Michelle, so I don't remember what number it was, but
And it's called what now?
in-home care, yeah. It's really nice,
Where Greenland used to be.
yeah, Greenland still owns that.
Okay, I see evidence of some work.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I,
It's not residence, it's on it, so.
Oh,
okay, I
okay.
haven't called into them, so I'm not sure what it is, but I will follow up.
On the west side of North Main, just north of North Fairlawn.
No, it's on the east side, the in-home care is on the east side, headed north, just south of the, yeah, just south of the car wash.
And then we call it Shell Center.
Yeah, Call Michelle sounds quite large, and they call Michelle, and they don't know. Kyle, do you want to share, the lighting updates? And I'll also say, I'm so excited about the lighting updates, so Kyle will give all the details, and then we can talk about it.
Yeah, I'll be pretty brief. We are approaching, like a project closeout very soon. But, you know, if you're approaching that same, Doyle Avenue, light there, you will see that there are new decorative lights that are in that median there. So we've installed 32 new decorative lights, between the Doyle and Randall, like in that university marketplace area. So those are up, those are installed. The main thing that I'm doing now is coordinating the energizing bubble. So between RIDA, around energy, Prism, city, you know, the engineering department, DPW. We're basically just on to the energizing phase of putting a transformer in there and doing some underground connecting to get all this power. So I'm really trying to push that along because we're squarely in daylight savings time. And that dark period is coming very fast, way quicker than I.
Yeah, the dark period is here, it was
Yeah.
like dark at 5 p.m.
Yeah, so my fingers crossed aggressive approach to this is to try to get that done by the end of this month and get those powered. So I'm really trying to push them on, get those, there's some permitting that we have to do. You know, long story short, there was some consideration that we may have to do some ripping up of the street to have, you know, find a connection there. There's actually found that I had an unused connection point that was in the median, which avoided a good amount of trenching work that would have been, you know, kind of detrimental to our budget and just, you know, with this time of the year with the moratorium coming up, maybe not have been feasible. But we were able to find a connection point that is squarely in the median, so I am working with all of the stakeholders there to get that power up, and we should see those coming, soon.
I was want to give Kyle a real big shout out, because this is not an easy thing to project manage, there are so many moving parts. Both actual physical moving parts of things being installed, and also just like which permit you need for what and where and how, and who needs to push what button when. And other people, and all the people just having busy lives, so Kyle's done a really just amazing job about like keeping the trains going and like. Poking you when I need to be poked to do my poking, you know, like, hey, you know, we need to have you do this, but it's been really helpful, and we saw the these lights were installed right before our Walktober event, and Kyle can attest that I screamed. I was so excited. I saw them. I was like, oh my God, and like that made it fun.
Yeah, I feel like a cycle in the middle of the median just to like check them out, take pictures, admittedly, there are.
Oh, you kind of jumped into the median.
Yeah, there are some that are installed a little closer to the trees than I would have liked, admittedly, so. I did ask the forest to just go out there and assess where feasible if trimming can happen. You know, there was a significant amount of machinery that was in that green area, so he did mention that there was some disturbances to like maybe some of the tree health there, so we wanna not trim too much of it detrimental to those trees, so he's assessing that right now. You know, that's one thing that, you know, if I could have went back and fixed before we did that, I wish I did. But overall, 32 lights there. Once they get powered up there, I think they will work absolutely great and really help out with the visibility. They're gonna be in the 360 direction there too, so really excited about it. Fingers crossed, end of this month, we should see that, hopefully. The other aspect of that is the southbound side of North Main Street in Fairground. There have been 10 new poles installed over there. We're gonna put 10 new cobra heads kind of in those gap areas. We are coordinating right now with on again, tree trimmings over there, just to maximize the amount of lighting I can go, but in this case, we're gonna wait for trim the tree first. And then put the lighting up so that we can kind of minimize any potential damage there. So we should hopefully see that as well coming up in the next few weeks. I actually did just get an update from Sean today. That they think the project manager to schedule that, the tree trimming aspect, so we don't have a confirmed date on that yet, but it's in the pipeline, so. After that, you should be seeing 10 new additional lights going on the south, down side of the barrier.
Kyle's also been really helpful in making sure that the COVID, sorry, I'm just bringing up Kyle today, I'm like Kyle's type person, but the lights are gonna have these, they're gonna be situated such that there's no real backlighting going into the burial ground, because as we know, there's like wildlife, there's all, you know, it's like, that is a dark area and it should remain a dark area. And so the lighting will be on the street, but not disturbing coyote and other habitat.
Yeah, I'm gonna revisit this with person, they did mention that they should have some back shields as well to kind of minimize that. That hasn't been brought up in a little bit, so I would like to revisit and refresh that idea. And I would like to see that happen there. But for all intents and purposes, once lighting at the median is energized and we get those new lights along the southbound area of the burial ground, then that'll be like, you know, our project pulls out for the ARPA allocation that we had there, so that's really exciting, I'm ready to execute that, and I think it's been, you know, it's been, you know, complex coordinating with the stakeholders, but I also feel like they were all invested.
Yeah,
We brought them along pretty early and just explained how important this was. I think everybody has been pretty communicative and responsive to me, so, you know, I'm internally grateful for our partners at our energy, prison, public property, DPW.
yeah.
You know, everybody has, you know, come along and really pushed this along, so I do want to express gratitude there. And then I do want to discuss the public property, that second phase of the side streets, that feed in, I've mentioned that a number of times here. It's not currently budgeted for with what we're doing here, but I would like to advocate and find some money where we can be able to expand our lighting network and do that, both North Main Street.
Yeah.
That's not my list.
Some next meeting topics too have emerged of like discussing the second phase, what that could look like, maybe bring in director or union, and maybe some of these like other quick builds could be another potential. I've also shared one other quick update, and then I will really let us adjourn at some point, because people are very hungry for dinner. Folks have been noticing that our task force gets things done. They're like, oh, this isn't just like a meeting thing. You guys are like actually accomplishing stuff. This is amazing. And so I know, yeah, nobody's got time to sit around. And other council people have been like, how do we do this for Branch? Or what about this? So folks are trying to look at the model that you guys have really like put forward and like the great work that you brought to the table to figure out how to like get at some of our intractable issues in some of the other areas of town. So I just wanted to say like, thank you. And, that's really awesome that people are inspired by all the things you've been doing and like the way that you've been able to execute. And I won't let them steal Kyle from us, when they try and do that, but, because we need him on North Main, but, it's really exciting if people are.
But also, remember, a lot of that is down to like all of the behind the scenes work that Sue has been doing all along, which is a tremendous amount of work and effort, so.
Thank you.
Well, we're credit there.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that, thank you. And with that, can we read item 6 into the agenda?
Public comment.
Awesome. Do we have any public comment signed up? Grant, do you have any public comment?
Not tonight.
Not tonight. Anybody else? I think everybody else is spoken. Yeah. Check us out. Well, with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
No, we don't have a quorum.
And, yeah, you can't.
Would you